Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's event to celebrate the end of Ramadan. Eid Mubarak. My name is Yasar Dabur, and I'm the chair of California Democratic Party's Arab American Caucus. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight. To begin our program tonight, I would like to introduce Imam Taha Hassan of the Islamic Center of San Diego to lead a short prayer for this occasion.
Assalamu alaikum and peace be with you all. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Almighty God, the Lord of the worlds, our Creator and Sustainer, we thank you for extending our lives to witness one more Ramadan. We thank you for helping us fasting its days and praying on its nights. We thank you for giving us the ability to share part of our wealth with the poor and the needy. We pray to you, Almighty Allah, not to make this Ramadan the last in our lives, so we can witness more Ramadan in the future. Oh Allah, please accept our fasting and prayers and accept our charity in Ramadan. Accept our dua and good deeds and forgive our mistakes and shortcomings. We pray for your blessings and divine guidance. Grant us wisdom, compassion, and strengthen our faith. Help us to embrace the values of peace and justice, and then give us the ability to spread them all over our nation and the whole world, so people can live safe and prosper, have food on their tables and a roof over their heads, can seek quality education and access to affordable health care, so they can achieve their dreams. We pray for love, unity, and mutual respect with our neighbors, so we can thrive all together, paving the path for a bright future for our coming generations. Grant us the ability to embrace each other and give us the ability to welcome the stranger, to feed the hungry and shelter the homeless, and providing for the poor and the needy amongst us. Almighty Allah, the Creator, the source of all being, the most gracious, the most merciful, keep blessing us and our fellow men and women all over the world. Ameen.
Good evening, fellow Democrats. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Harris Mujadidi. I'm a trustee on the Shibol Las Positas Community College Board, and I have the honor of serving as the Northern Chair for the CDP API Caucus. I want to welcome you all to the CDP's first ever Eid program, and I want to wish all my brothers and sisters celebrating a very Eid Mubarak. The CDP API Caucus is honored to be co-hosting this event with the Arab American Caucus this evening. Before we begin our program, I want to acknowledge that today we lost a legend and a titan in our API community in former Secretary Norm Mineta, a man that was born as a child and lived in a detainment camp right here in this country, that would go on to be a mayor, a congressman, and the first ever Asian Pacific Islander cabinet secretary. And that's important because right now we are witnessing a curtailment of our civil rights right before our eyes. And so it's timely that we have this program tonight and that we acknowledge Muslim American leaders within our party and this party, the Democratic Party, that's fighting for inclusion. And so this evening, I have the honor of a lifetime in introducing my good friend and mentor, our keynote speaker, Ms. Moina Shaikh. I've had the pleasure and good fortune of knowing Moina for almost half of my life. When I got started in Democratic Party politics, Moina was the chair of the City of Fremont's Human Relations Commission. And as a young teenager, I was so impressed and I thought, wow, someone that looks like me is in such a prestigious and important role. And as soon as I met Moina, she instantly became my mentor. And in fact, Moina has mentored so many people on our caucus leadership, including our statewide caucus chair, Deepa Sharma, and our parliamentarian, Aref Aziz. And all of Moina's professional accomplishments, her achievements, her trailblazing, they all pale in comparison to her big heart that's so full of love and so full of compassion. She's been there for me throughout my life through some of the most difficult times, always reminding me that I belong and that I had a seat at the table. And I remember when I came out of the closet as a gay man, Moina was there to embrace me with open arms and love. And she told me that even in my faith, that I can be Muslim and that our religion was inclusive and accepting. And so, in so many ways, everything that I want to do in our community, I'm reminded of Moina. I'm reminded of her leadership, her strength, and her courage. And so it gives me the honor to introduce you, Moina. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haris. Such kind words. I'm just overwhelmed. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. In the name of God, the most gracious and most merciful, I would like to greet you with the universal Muslim greeting, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be with you, and Eid Mubarak to all of you. I'm very excited and grateful to the California Democratic Party for hosting this Eid celebration. I also want to thank the CDP API caucus leaders, Deepa Sharma and Haris Mujadidi, for their leadership, and also the Arab American caucus for co-hosting it. The religious festival, Eid al-Fitr, or the festival of breaking the fast, is one of the two major holidays celebrated by Muslims around the world. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, in which Muslims are required to fast from sunrise to sundown and abstain from smoking, drinking, including water, and intimacy during the daylight hours, and engage in much self-reflection. Ramadan is the month in which the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, received the teachings of the Quran, the Islamic holy book, as a guide for mankind and as a means for judging between right and wrong. Fasting during Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars that are essential to the Islamic faith. Experiencing hunger and thirst is supposed to heighten our awareness of the sufferings of the poor and gain a greater appreciation for what we have. After a month of prayer, purification of our souls, devotion, and self-control, Muslims celebrate the accomplishment of their sacred duties during Ramadan with Eid al-Fitr. During Eid al-Fitr, Muslims take part in special morning prayers, greet each other with formal embraces, and offer each other greetings of Eid Mubarak, which means have a blessed Eid. They gather with family and friends and eat special meals. Of course, food is always part of every celebration. This evening, I wanted to share with you a bit about my own journey after I moved to the United States in 1978. I've been a lifelong Democrat. It was easy choice for me since the Democratic Party values align with my Muslim faith, such as equity and inclusion, women's rights, and social justice. It was incredibly important for me to raise my children with these values. I started my involvement in the Democratic Party right after 9/11. It was a very scary time for all Americans, and in particular Muslims. I had learned about Japanese internment and saw Muslims being rounded up in places in the United States and detained just because of their identity. There was a sense of fear of whether or not we were guilty by association. As a woman who wore a headscarf, I wasn't sure what to expect from my community at large. What would they think of me? Would they judge me solely based on my hijab, my headscarf? I stayed home for 10 days, but thought to myself, how long could I live like this? It was after that experience that I felt the need to get more involved, since Muslims were being mischaracterized or portrayed in a negative light. Many Muslims were fearful and laying low. it took a lot of courage for me personally to get politically involved in such trying times. I can recall going to my local park and wanting to go on a walk and being afraid to get out of my car. That fear was debilitating, but ultimately I decided that I need to become a bridge to help spread awareness that Muslims were and are contributing members of our society. At that time, there were hardly any Muslims that were involved in politics. When I first went to the Democratic Convention as a delegate, I did not see a single Muslim. There was no prayer room assigned where I could do my daily prayers. Over the past 20 years, I have seen our party become more inclusive, and today we have a prayer room at the convention. After attending my local Democratic Club meetings, I soon became the vice chair for my local Democratic Club, co-chair of the local UDC campaign office. I can recall that my youngest was still in a carrier when I used to take her to the campaign office. I wanted to instill civic values in her from a very young age, and I wanted her to know that she too belonged and could aspire to be in public service. I would eventually charter and co-chair the Muslim Dems and Friends Democratic Club, the first of its kind in the state. And since then, there are more Muslim Democratic clubs that have been chartered. A lot of people in the new immigrant Muslim community don't know how the system works or didn't have much knowledge in the political arena. We have come a long way. As you can see, several of my brothers, Muslim brothers and sisters are here today who are involved in the e-board and hold elected positions and are delegates. We live in very diverse communities, and that is our strength. We need to work together in interfaith circles as well as political circles to make everyone's voices heard. We cannot work in silos. We must make sure that all communities are represented. In my line of interfaith work, I have learned that education is the key. We try to stereotype people based on how they look, dress, or talk. Education is the key to have a better understanding of who everyone is amongst us. We should not need to tolerate anyone. Toleration is bare minimum for me. We need to embrace and accept everyone for who they are. In this same spirit, it is very important for Muslims to be involved in their local communities by serving on boards and commissions, getting elected to city council and school boards. After all, these offices and seats are the ones that impact us the most on a daily basis. We need to instill values of justice and public service in our children. Most Muslims in America hold college degrees. They are doctors, engineers, accountants, lawyers, judges, work in tech, run nonprofits, work for social justice issues, and the list goes on. Justice is the goal of Islamic law, as it is the goal for Islamic society in general. Justice is a central theme in our Holy Quran. Islam attaches the highest importance to justice. In fact, divine justice is the backbone of the whole act of creation. About 6 years ago, I started Meet a Muslim Conversations to help dispel stereotypes, misunderstandings, and misconceptions about Islam and Muslims. It started out in my local coffee shop and eventually expanded to communities across the state and across the country. These conversations were held at coffee shops, places of worship, school, colleges, everywhere. People are asked to come with absolutely any question. Nothing is off the table. My mission is to build bridges of love, respect, understanding, and acceptance, one heart at a time. And so tonight, I want to call on all Muslim Americans to get involved in your communities, get on boards or commissions of your city, help candidates run for office, candidates that share your values and would represent you the way you want to be represented. Run for office, get involved in the Democratic Party, get involved at all levels of government. I would request parents to lead by example. You are your kids' role model. Speaking of children, I'm so incredibly proud of mine. Alhamdulillah, which is praise be to God. My eldest son volunteers in his community, serves on the board of the biggest Muslim civil rights organization, CARE, and has recently adopted a safe surrender baby after having 2 of his own biological kids. My eldest daughter works in mental health, has helped foster kids, and supports her community in so many ways. My younger son is a public defender who fights for justice each and every day. And my youngest daughter, who I would bring with me in a carrier to the local Democratic campaign headquarters, now works for Speaker Nancy Pelosi in Washington, D.C. That little girl that would watch her mother in a hijab volunteering on local political campaigns now works for the Speaker of the House. This was possible because she was exposed to political campaigns as a young girl. I can't take all the credit because it is their hard work and commitment that got them where they are. But I know my involvement helped pave the way for them to serve their respective communities. I started the Muslim Democratic Club in the spirit of getting our younger generation involved. There are several Muslims who are involved in the party, serving at the e-board, delegate, central committee, and other levels. I wanted to show a united Muslims club. I wanted to educate my community to help understand the political system, help folks run for office, help build their resumes. I wanted the establishment to know who their Muslim constituents are, how to get hold of them, how to help them learn the ropes. The Democratic Party shares my values, and that's why I have been a Democrat. Our party is a party that fought for and won civil rights, has worked to expand healthcare and access for all people, and in particular, underrepresented communities. And it is our party that protect the civil rights of all Americans. Thank you so much.
Moina, this is wonderful to hear your story and to hear how you're helping our Democratic Party. Hello, everyone. My name is Ada Briceño, and I'm chair of the Democratic Party in Orange County and also a union leader. I'm here with you because I'm a partner in the Muslim community in Orange County. And after Trump got elected, I partnered with other leaders to establish a Muslim Latino collaborative where we organized our community to stand against hate, to stand against Trump, and trained youth leaders in our respective communities, Latino and Muslims. I have stood with you in care against Islamophobia over and over again. I was also a big part of standing up to Disney when one of their workers, Iman, was denied her right to wear a hijab quite a few years back. So I'm happy to be with you. And tonight we want to reflect on Ramadan and Eid, as well as talk about Muslim Democrats and Muslims running for office, and how Muslim voters can help Democrats retain our majority in Congress. So I will begin this discussion with brief introductions of each one of our panelists, and then dive right into the conversation. So we have Hussam Alouche, and he's a lifelong human rights and democratic activist for causes here and abroad. Currently, he's the executive director of the Greater Los Angeles Area Office of the Council on American Islamic Relations. Hussam is a member of the West Coast Muslim Catholic Dialogue and the Abrahamic Faith Peacemaking Initiative. And he's also been an elected delegate and executive board member for the California Democratic Party for nearly 10 years. Fauza Rizvi is as the first Muslim to be elected in the Inland Empire. She serves as the director of the Western Municipal Water District Division 5. And during the pandemic, she helped co-found a nonprofit called For the People Task Force, which has been instrumental in providing our essential workers with over 20,000 homemade sewn masks and established a food pantry and a food bank. So now she's running for the California State Assembly, District 63, and she has the Democratic Party of California's endorsement. Basim El-Kara is the executive director of Sacramento Valley Central California Office of CARE California. He served on the executive board of the Democratic Party of California for a decade, from 2009 to 2021, and also chaired the party's Affirmative Action Committee for also a decade. He was elected to the Twin Rivers Unified School District Board in 2016, and also served as a City of Sacramento Community Police Review Commissioner. Bassem is passionate about civil rights, education, and the arts. He's worked to mobilize minority groups and increase their political and organizing power. So you can see that we're headed to an incredible panel here. And next we have Maha Rizvi, and her organizing career, believe it or not, started at 16 years of age. She joined her mother as they were both volunteering for Obama's presidential campaign. Maha is an active political leader in the Inland Empire, and she served as the first chairwoman for the Riverside County Young Democrats. She's also elected as the first Muslim and South Asian woman to serve as regional director of the California Democratic Party in 2019, where she currently serves. Yasser Dabur is serving in his second term as an Assembly District Delegate in District 9 and is the executive board member for the California Democratic Party. And he's recently elected as chair of the Arab American Caucus for the CDP. So this is your panel, and I'm excited to hear their answers. But I want to start this conversation in the spirit of Eid. And I want to ask you how you and your family is celebrating the end of Ramadan. And I'd like to also understand if you have a particular memory from the past Eid that you'd like to share. And we'll start with Maha.
Well, assalamu alaikum, everyone, and Eid Mubarak. Thank you, Ada, for your great introduction. And so for me, Eid is just always a time for family. I celebrate with my lovely mom, and just every Eid morning, we go to the mosque, the masjid for prayers, and after we go for family breakfast. So that's always been a great tradition for us, and that we've always enjoyed.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Maha. Can we ask the same of Hussam?
Sure. Well, thank you, Adam. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and Eid Mubarak to all, especially those who celebrate. Eid for me, or the Eid means really the holiday, or it means the repeat of joy, really, if you want to think about it. It's a holiday that comes after a whole month of fasting, as it was said by Moina. For me, this tradition is to get together with family. So we did that. It's like having think of it maybe like a Thanksgiving or a Christmas dinner, get together, but celebrate for the day, especially for the kids. For me, the memory has always been about bringing joy to the kids, gifts, cash gifts or toys, candy, dessert, and then get together with the rest of the family. So that has been my memory, and that's what I try to relive.
Fauza, could we get the same question answered?
Yes. So as the said, Eid is about family and for getting together with community. And my memory this year, I was so grateful looking at past 2 years, how we were not able to gather together and how we were not able to see and not knowing where we're going, but thanks to science and thanks to what happened, we were able to celebrate with our communities. We were able to pray at our mosques and joining everyone in celebration yesterday. We had the largest in city of Corona where we pray. We had the largest crowd I hadn't seen in few years. So being together with family, with community is how we celebrate. And we're thankful today that we are able to do so.
Thank you so much. And for Yasser and Basim, can we get, what is one thing about Ramadan or Eid that you wish everyone knew or better understood? And we'll start with Basim.
For me, Ramadan is it's a month of reflection, thinking about our privilege and just thinking about about those that are struggling here around the world, and just makes you a much more spiritual, reflective person. And for me, that it's a powerful thing. Just every year, spiritual reminder about what we have and what others don't have, and how we can recommit ourselves to stand for justice.
Certainly, if I were to add what my brother Bassem just mentioned, mostly Ramadan is about being spiritual, reflecting. But if you were to look at the materialistic side of it, it's really to appreciate the simple gifts from God, just like a sip of water when you're thirsty, or a bite when you're hungry, and to reflect and be thankful to God that you have these gifts, and reflect on the other people, the poor, and think about it, that these people don't have these simple gifts from God, and hoping that that would be a drive for us to work for humanity, to have these gifts spread among all people.
Thank you so much for that. I am going to turn to Bassem once again and ask you, being Muslim in America is sometimes synonymous to being misunderstood. So do you think that's true? And do you think things have gotten better or worse?
You know, I think there's still a large segment that misunderstands our community. And unfortunately, it's for political reasons. I mean, you look at, if you just Google the CARE Islamophobia report and see hundreds of millions of dollars being spent to create that confusion out there with our fellow Americans, to make our fellow Americans turn against us. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in the nonprofit world, that we see the 990 forms, and see how well funded it is to spread that disinformation in attempts to disenfranchise the American Muslim community. I mean, people are afraid that the American Muslim community are growing in numbers, growing in political clout, and they would like to attempt to stop that and turn folks against us. But I think it is failing. I think the American Muslim community and allies have been making great strides. You see a record number of American Muslims running for office, making a difference in their communities. And coming after Ramadan with just the spiritual energy and this recommitment to justice, I just see the American Muslim community really just going to continue down this path to really empower not only the American Muslim community, but empower our allies and all those who stand for justice.
Hussam, the same question for you.
The American Muslim community is a very diverse community, obviously, and like any other community, is non-monolithic. From left to right, conservative to liberal, people focus on education, others focus on human rights. But the one thing in common among all Muslims has been that we have felt the brunt of, especially in the post 9/11 era, the brunt of marginalization, dehumanization of American Muslims. Believe it or not, at one point, American Muslims voted overwhelmingly Republican, but then almost 80% voted for George W. Bush, to give you an idea. But also they felt becoming the punching bag of conservatives, to advance war and warmongering and fear-mongering, anti-immigration, xenophobia, etc., and Islamophobia. And then you saw a shift within the Muslim community. And the challenges today remain Islamophobia, as Bassem said, remains issues dealing with immigration. To a great extent, many of the American Muslim community members are either immigrants or children of immigrants, in addition to a substantial, obviously, African-American indigenous Muslim community that also faces racism, its own type of racism that we as a society need to address. So American Muslims feel that the Democratic Party in specific has been embracing the values of fighting for equality, the rights for immigrants, speaking against bigotry, respecting the diversity that we represent as a country, appreciating it. That's why we've seen a shift over the years. Now almost 80% more or less have voted for Obama, for Biden. The reason for that is the issues that are dear to us: human rights, civil rights, immigrants' rights, countering all forms of bigotry, whether it's anti-Black racism, anti-Latino racism, anti-Asian racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and so on and so forth. This is going to be a challenge. Obviously, we would like to see the Democratic Party engaging more with American Muslims. We've seen a welcome. That's why we see the first Muslim ever elected to Congress was Keith Ellison from Minnesota. Later on, then Andre Carson, and then Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Some of the most prominent progressive members of Congress happen to be Muslim, Rashida and Ilhan, among the most vocal on these issues. So we're very proud to contribute to our country, to contribute to equality in our country. And we hope to continue to push as we try to recruit more Muslims into, as I speak as a Democrat, but also as a civil rights activist, I would like to see more Muslims engage in politics to push for these issues and for human rights. Human rights is extremely important. As Moina said earlier, justice is one of the most important values in Islam, and making sure that our country, we are not engaged in promoting injustice, funding injustice, especially not using our tax money to support occupation, apartheid, discrimination, racism, dictatorships anywhere in the world, especially in the Middle East and Muslim majority countries where we have a long history of doing that. So that's where, and to those who might be on the call today with us and out of curiosity, who happen to be Republican and that's their cup of tea, that's fine. What I tell them, be active where you're at, but push for these values. Don't just say I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. Push for these values, equality for immigrants, for minorities, etc. And if you don't feel that you can do that, well, we welcome you here.
Thank you for that. So Maha, you're a regional director. So let's talk about within the Democratic Party. Do you think Muslims are more understood today than before within the party?
Thank you, Ada. That's a great question. I definitely believe we are on our way. I think it's better than we have, especially post-Trump era. We saw the rise in the Democrats getting involved because we were like, we're not going to take that. We're not going to take the pain of that era, right? We want to get involved. We want to make sure that we are putting kind of where our money, where our mouth is, and getting involved in different things, right? Us not having a voice in these spaces, I think makes a difference. So I know there's many activists who've been in the party for a while, but I think it definitely has risen up. It's great to have events like this, like for the Democratic Party, such as celebrating Eid and other religious holidays that we've seen, right? Because the Democratic Party is the party of acceptance and accepting everyone from all different faiths. So I do think the Democratic Party has really gone their way, but there's a long way to go. I mean, it's great that we have 3 or 4 elected Muslims in Congress, right? But that's still not enough. In the state of California, we've never had a Muslim elected to the state assembly. And so, I think there's more work to be done in making sure that it's great that we're having delegates, but making sure that we are supporting them when it comes time to support them in races. We have great candidates running this year from state of California that we're excited about, but hopefully we can get the same support in these races than like in other areas. So that's the thing I've seen in the party. And I mean, it's great that me being the first regional director, as a Muslim regional director, but I definitely won't be the last, and I'm gonna make sure of that.
I appreciate that, Maha. So, I want to go back, Hussam, just a tad, because I want to just raise up this point that you made that is really important. But, we know that there are some polls out there that talk about, the majority of Muslims now being Democrats. And you just went through that little piece with us, right? Mm-hmm. But that might come to a surprise, to many based on their understanding, or should I say lack of understanding of Muslims. So we're trending blue, right? How do we keep moving in that direction?
Absolutely. Well, just to put things in perspective, there are about 5.5 million Muslims in America, very diverse. I would say 3/4 of them maybe are of immigrant, especially Middle Eastern, South Asian background in general, and about 1/4 of them are of indigenous and mainly African American. People like Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and the list, goes on and on. Of course, Keith Ellison, Andre Carson, and many, many other famous names. In California, to be specific, since this is the California Democratic Party that we represent, there are about 1 million, with the same breakdown in terms of numbers. So their issues are very diverse. But they range within, as I said, human rights, anti-racism, justice, social justice, equality for all people, access, opportunities, also human rights. So for us, the changes that we're witnessing today is again, what's today? Tuesday. So yesterday, the White House reinstated celebration of Eid. You know, President Biden and Dr. Biden hosted Muslim leaders. We've had people from all organizations, CARE and many other organizations, being present at the White House. A few years ago, that Eid festival was canceled by former President Trump, who didn't even deem there are Muslims here. So actually what he did, he hosted something and invited ambassadors from Muslim majority countries, as if there are no Muslims in America. A tradition that was started many, many years ago. And I had the chance to attend the tradition when President Obama was in the White House. So it is not about, the snacks and the drinks we have there. It's about recognition. It's about recognizing we have a diverse country that includes Muslims. And as we recognize every other community, it's about that recognition. It's about what Maha said very eloquently. It's about embracing them, not just in these receptions for Eid reception, but also their issues, their representations. We with 1 million Muslims in California, we would love to see it. And as I've said, I mean, Ada, you've been a pioneer in that sense. You've always supported diversity within our party here in Orange County, and you've supported the causes, whether as an activist or later on as a chair here in Orange County. But we want to see that at a statewide level. We want to support Muslims running city council, mayor, assembly, members of Congress. And we have that, actually. We have that in this Southern California, let alone, throughout the state. This is not about tokenism. It's not about, hey, we need to have from everybody. But, as you know very well, and everybody knows that, every community has so much to contribute. And as a Muslim, I say that we have so much to contribute to the well-being of our country and our state. And we're so proud to share that. So yes, we'll continue to surprise fellow Americans, and especially fellow Democrats, as we join hands in strengthening our party, because I do believe we're not a perfect party by any stretch of the word. We admit we have a lot to grow into and learn from every community. But the good thing I would say, as a lifelong Democrat, we listen. We embrace, we admit our mistakes, and we try to improve. I've been active, besides being a civil rights and human rights activist, I've been a Democratic Party activist, and I know that it's not a cliche. Actually, I work with everybody, and we've made corrections. Hopefully, if there are things that the Muslim community feels are not being addressed, that are important to them, please reach out to the political, democratic political activists in your area. And you see a beautiful representation here from all over the state. And I know for a fact that, because one thing that comes up all the time is our human rights record as a country and the silence of our politicians. I assure you, I know the activists, and not only the Muslim or Arab or South Asians. I work with Jewish activists, African-American activists, Latino activists, labor activists. This is becoming an important issue. And I promise you, we're going to see more change in us emphasizing the importance of human rights to all of the elected officials coming at least from the state of California.
Yasser, how about your perspective on the same question?
So in addition to what Brother Hussam just mentioned, in America, as a minority, aside from being Muslim, all minorities in the past, it seems that there has been a price to pay to be part of this community. The first thing we learned when we came here, personally, I came here 30 years ago, I wasn't born here, that America is a melting pot. And what an awful metaphor to use, that it's a pot where you need to be melted and reshaped. And mind you, it's going to be reshaped for the like of the other, not for who you are. Instead of being, how I like, my metaphor that I like to use is, having a garden where it's full of flowers of different shapes and different colors, different heights, different scents. People are recognized on their own merits. For diversity to occur, it's not only a slogan that we just mention it when we're holding our hands and singing Kumbaya. It's actually, it needs recognition, and it needs enclosure. Recognition is to be given the platform and the venue to as a group of people within the society. But enclosure is actually the act of listening from you about yourself, not to hear, to listen from us, not about us from the others, not to be stereotyped, not to be the image of Hollywood, these people holding the swords and running around, with a sword, screaming Allahu Akbar. That's not who we are. Is to hear our stories. And as my brother Sam alluded, we come from different backgrounds. It's true, we're all Muslims, but as you can see here from the speakers, we have the Palestinian, the Syrian, the Pakistani, the Afghani. We come from all across the board. We have the white, the black, the Latino, and the like. So we have to be given the chance. We'd like to have that chance to change that. And actually, our fight is not only for Muslims and minorities. This is really correcting something inheritedly wrong with the culture in America. Like, look what happened, with the Asian American, Japanese American. They had to pay their dues to be accepted into the society. And so was the case with African American. So was the case for Latinos. Every minorities in this country paid their dues before they were integrated in the society. Mind you, still that integration is not fully there. Racism still exists. It's ingrained in our society. We still have a lot to do to remedy that, not only for Muslims, but for all other minorities.
Thank you for that. Fauzia, you and I have a common friend who's a Muslim, and he's running for office. His name is Dr. Asif Mahmood. He's running for the 40th Congressional District here in Orange County. And I'm one of his top activists. I've been traveling parts of the country with him, fundraising and making sure that his candidacy moves to a prominent place and that we can get him across the finish line. I have been with him, and I see that there are some differences with Muslim candidates. So you, as a candidate, right? I'm curious about your experience as a Muslim candidate. Do you feel that you've had to campaign differently or navigate your candidacy in a unique way due to you being a Muslim?
Yes, Ada. Dr. Asif is great. I'm so excited for him. He is, we're all supporting him. And thank you for what you've been doing to support his candidacy. As a Muslim, as a predominant looking Muslim woman, it is very hard for us. When I ran for my first office back in 2018, not only people were, even people within my party were very reluctant to support me. I find, they were like, in your district, it is hard for a Muslim woman looking like you would be. When my first consultant has said, change your name, your experience, your work in the community is amazing, but your name and the way you look, you can never win in this district. And that is something that, as a candidate, I took it to heart, saying, oh boy, I should not run. I should hold back. But I had amazing mentors. I had, Brother Hussam, I've spoken to him, and he said, this is about, representation and working towards representation. This has never been about winning, but to show people that we've been in the community, we are the fabric of this society, and we just have to show them that we are here to stay. We are we are high achievers. We've done the work, but this time we have representation. So I lost my first election, but that didn't stop me from working the community, telling people that Muslim Muslim people are, just minorities community. We are fighting for the same things that you are: education, human rights, women's right is very important. And we kept on doing the fight. That's the thing. Not giving up is something I would tell all the candidates. Yes, it is harder because we are opening doors for our next generation. But on the same note, giving up is not an option for us. California state is one of the largest Muslim population, yet we have no representation at the state legislature. So this is something that we are very aware of this. And this is something that I am taking the opportunity to change that. Absolutely, it is hard, but it is not.
I appreciate that. And we're very proud of you and all that you're doing. Basim, the same question for you.
So it was challenging running for office initially, but there was a hate campaign against me. But I think it backfired tremendously when the community rallied behind me in the campaign, and so I think it's shown that hate doesn't work anymore. It can confuse maybe some people, but the majority of Americans really, I had Republicans tell me, hey, I don't care what religion you are, just it's about your platform, what you're running. And so it did backfire on them. And I think that makes it, less likely for the future for folks to attack someone else, realizing it's not a winning, it's a losing strategy to attack someone because of their faith or their ethnic background. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see, less of these attacks. And as someone mentioned in the chat, you look at Ilhan Omar, she ran, wears hijab, 75% white district. Rashida Tlaib, I think it's about 85% black district. And so I think those two examples show that hate's not going to work anymore.
I appreciate hearing that. Folks, we're coming to the end. And so I have one final quick question for Maha. And I'm hoping that we could be super brief in this response. But here it is. What is one thing you wish people would know or understand better about Muslim Democrats or Muslim voters that hasn't been shared already?
One thing I do want to say is that we have the same issues as everyone else. We are business owners, we're community members, we are there. Yes, we have worldwide issues that we focus on, but we are also a fabric of our community, and treat us like that. We're here trying to represent our community together. So I think just like making sure that you communicate with us, not only on issues that affect Muslims, but affecting our community. I think that's something I do want to share, and that I think is forgotten.
Yeah, Mahana, I look, honestly, this has been such a great discussion that we can go on. I could listen to you for a long time. These are all fascinating conversations that we should have. And I am so thankful to all of you for coming on and sharing your experience and making sure that there's a clear space for everyone at the table, the Democratic Party of California. So I just want to again thank everybody for being here. And before we end, I want to pass it over to Yasser to finish us off.
Can I say something in 10 seconds?
Go ahead, Hussam.
Because I just saw some comments that are very valid, asking, maybe next time, make sure we include more people who cover the whole diversity of Muslims. Obviously, there wouldn't be one panel that can cover all of that diversity, but certainly, yes, to the credit of Ada and everybody else who rushed to organize this. This was done, great initiative. It was done very quickly. Definitely next time would love to add Latino Muslims, African-American Muslims. There are so many diversities that we can be including here. My wife would be happy. My wife is a Latina Muslim, so she would be happy to be there. Definitely. It wasn't intended, of course, to exclude anyone, but Ada called the people she knows because she wanted to show that we recognize Eid and the Muslim community. So thank you, Ada, again for the program.
Well, and I want to make sure that, the Democratic Party has had, this is a wonderful show of strength for all the communities that the Democratic Party represents. And I'm just proud to be a very small part of this, but I will now turn it over to Yasser.
Thank you, Ada. And actually, before I close, I'd like to clarify one thing and that we didn't mention. This Eid al-Fitr literally means it's the celebration of breaking fast. And for Muslim, there's two Eids that we celebrate, or two celebrations, two main ones. Eid al-Fitr, breaking the fast, it comes after Ramadan, and Eid al-Adha, which this year will fall probably between July 8th and July. Sorry for that. And Eid al-Adha, which is actually a celebration of sacrifice, and it follows the Abrahamic tradition. As you know, the story of Abraham and his son Ishmael, and the ram, and you know the rest of the story. So hopefully we will celebrate that as well together. And with that, I would like to thank thank everyone for joining us for CADEM Celebrates Eid al-Fitr. It has been wonderful sharing this with all of you. I also would like to celebrate our speakers and our moderator, Ada Briceño. Thank you so much. You did a wonderful job. Also would like to thank our ASL interpreters and closed captioner for providing accommodations for tonight. And I'd also like to invite you to join California Democratic Party's Arab American Caucus, or API Caucus. The link to join either or both is going to be posted in the chat. And also, we have another CADEM Celebrates event coming up on May 12th in celebration of API Heritage Month. So please RSVP for that in the link in chat. And finally, good night and Eid Mubarak to everybody.